Right, today I'm going to show you a card that I've seen online. I've had a try at having a go at it, but it didn't go right because it didn't have instructions. And I found a very good tutorial by a lady called Shani Haynes. I'll put the link to her blog on the description below. But this card, it's just a really nice card basically. So it starts off. This is the one that I've already made. I've done it as a gatefold, and then when you open it up, you have this shutter mechanism in the middle. You can see that there. And I just love that. I think that is so cool. I've also added, on the one that she did a band around the outside, but I've just left it because it's not that openy. I mean, it doesn't want to open too much by itself. And so what I've done is just done a greeting on the front, and then I've made that into a little card. So because in here there's not really anywhere to write because this is so busy. So I thought that I would put it as a little separate card on the front. So I'm going to make this card. We're going to do different papers and everything, but anyway, I shall show you the different pieces that you need. You need quite a lot of pieces. I have written it all out for myself in a little sheet, which you can see here. Now, I had to do myself a diagram so I knew what colour papers and what to use. So I've written down all the instructions, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the piece of card as we go through, and hopefully I can remember from when I did that last night how we put it together. Okay, so the papers that I'm going to be using for this one is, put everything here. Let's move this out of the way, I shall need to keep an eye on that. So I've got a whole load here. Now then, I've done some of my own panels as well for some of the bits. So let me just take this off to one side and feed them in one by one. So you will need the main piece, which is your card base, needs to be 12 by 6, and this is going to be, so what I've done is I've separated it out like Shani did into 3 separate sections. So I've got my plain card blank, which is your base, all your base pieces. Then I've got some pattern, which you could use as just coloured card, but I've used it as, I've got this yellow patterned paper, and then the third one is like really patterned paper. Okay, so that's kind of how I've done it. So the first piece is just a plain white, and I've done it's 12 by 6, and that's your card base. You also need another piece, which is 9 by 4. I've labelled them all, A, B, C, so I can go through them. And that, yeah, so that's 9 by 4, and that you will use for your shutter mechanism. The next piece is 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. This piece, I think, is the piece you use for stamping your sentiment on, that's underneath the shutter. This one is 6 inches by 4 inches. This piece is the bit that goes down the middle that I'm going to be cutting an aperture out of. Then we come to our panels. Right, so we've got E. Now these are, if you have a look on this diagram here, this is the sides. These are the side panels, so they go on top of a pattern piece. But I didn't want them to be plain white, because I just thought if they're plain white, they're going to look a bit boring. So what I've done, by the way, the measurement is 5.5 by 2.5, and you need 2 pieces. So what I've done with this is it's just a pearlescent white cardstock, same as what I'm using for here, and I've embossed it, and then all I've done is I've just run over it with distress inks. So I used mustard seed here, picked raspberry and salty ocean, and I've just very lightly just run over it, but I really like the way it's come out, and I'm actually going to make a card just using this as the main paper on it, because I just think that looks beautiful. It just reminds me of rainbows and the whole unicorn thing that's on at the moment as well. It's very popular. But yeah, so that's that. So that's those pieces. Next we have this one, which is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. That sits at the back. So this is your card. There's your folds there. This panel here, F. You see, so that's like your mat and layer for your centre. Then we have this one, which is 7 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's what you mat and layer onto your shutter mechanism. Next we have these 2 panels, which are 5 3/4 by 2 3/4. They sit on top of your side panels and then that embossed panel will go over the top, so you'll have a yellow border. Next we have this one, which is 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 inches, which is the matten layer for the centerpiece. And finally we have these, which are 5 3/4 by 2 3/4, 2 pieces, and they're for the very front of the front pieces. It seems like a lot of paper, but it's just because you're matten layering. If you were to stamp stuff and whatever, you probably wouldn't need as much. So, and then also what I've done is I've also made a little topper. I thought it was quite funky. So this is just another bit of white, same card, white pearl, and I've just cut it out using this die. This is a first edition nesting doily die, and then I've used a plain circle, which is the same size circle as I'm going to be using for the Aperture. This is a thank you die, and it actually says thank you all the way round, but I cut the other letters off and just left that on the one side. This one is a Dovecraft mini die, one of their tropical collection, which I thought was quite cute. So I've just I've cut him out of blue, and then I've just cut the top half out of green and inlaid it, and cut the bottom half out of this yellow and inlaid it, and stuck the whole thing onto silver, and then just fussy cut round. So he's got a bit of a bling-a-ling. But yeah, so that's that. And then the only other thing you're going to need are a plain square die. This is 3 inches square, and a plain circle die, and this is also 3 inches. Okay, so that's the only 2 things you're going to need, because that's for your shutter mechanism, and that's for the Aperture, so you can see the shutter behind it. So that will all become clear in a minute. So put those to one side. Right, so what you need to start off with is, I'm going to put these around my desk so I can see them. I would start off, if I were you, which is what I did last night, by folding your bottom panel. So your bottom panel that's 12 by 6, what you want to do with that is you want to score. Well, now you can do this two ways. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can either go by measurements or you can go by eye. Now I would rather go by eye, I think, just because sometimes when you measure and score, things don't turn out right. So what you need to do is you need to find halfway, which is 6 inches. If you're scoring and you're confident with your scoring, then you score at 3 inches and you score at 9 inches, all the way down. But because I'm not confident, because this edge and this edge, where you fold it into a gatefold, it needs to neatly meet in the middle. See how that neatly meets in the middle, and it doesn't overlap and there's not a gap, it literally matches. And so that's it's very important that you have that. So because of that, I don't trust myself to score here and score here. If you want to and you're confident, go ahead. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark at 6, and then I'm just going to fold this over. Now, obviously, depending on the card you're making, sometimes the card you're using, sometimes you end up with a horrible. It doesn't make it very nice on this edge. But the one I made last night came out alright. I mean, I've got a few crease lines, but you're gonna cover it anyway, so it doesn't really bother me that much. Just make sure you burnish those edges. They're nice and sharp. Right, and then you want to bring the other side in, and you want it to meet exactly in the middle. So this is why I do it this way. Also, I've got a tiny bit of a gap there at the bottom, but I'm not worried about that. At least it's not overlapping. That's the main concern. Right, so now you've done that, I think the best thing is to then put on your 5 3/4 by 2 3/4 pattern paper pieces on the front. So we're going to stick those down. There, like that. Okay. I'm going to use some Yoo-Hoo glue because that's all they get on best with. You can use tape. You can use whatever you want. Because of the size you've cut it, you should have a nice border, nice even border around the outside of your page. These papers that I'm using are from the Simply Creative Trimcraft brand, and this particular pad was called Life's a Beach. and they're quite cute papers, to be honest, they're quite fun. So that's what I'm using here. There we go. So that's that done. So now, open it up, and I would advise doing these two next. So you need the yellow, these two pieces. So this is your coloured card, as it were, coloured card pieces, and these are 5 3/4 by 2 3/4. So they're exactly the same size as the ones you just stuck down. So they need to go there and there. Right, next you need whatever you've chosen to go on top of these pieces. So this is my embossed panel. That's what you need next. So these are 5 1/2 by 2 1/2, and they are going to sit there and there. I just really love the way these panels have come out. Please ignore this. I was planning to do some heating embossing, and then I decided I didn't like it. So I turned my piece of paper over and used the other side. Because that's what we crafters do when we're frugal. Can't throw a piece of card away just because you've made a mistake on one side. And from the other side you'd never know anyway. So there's that panel. And there's the other panel. Right, next you need to take your 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 panel, which again will be the yellow one. Well, for me it's the yellow one, because that's going to sit in the middle there. I'm going to stick that down. There we go. Right, now you want to put that to one side, and you want to take your white piece, which is 9 by 4, and you want to stick your, oh hang on, before you do that, right, so 9 by 4, and then what you want to do is you want to score your 9 by 4 half an inch at either side. That's half an inch, and then at half an inch, like that. Okay, so this panel in the middle is 8 inches. From here to here is 8 inches. So you've done a half an inch either side. Right, now you want to take your 7 3/4 by 3 3/4 panel, and you want to stick that in the middle of that centre panel. Now when you stick this, you need to make sure that you don't just go around the edges. So you want to really glue around the edges. This is what I do, glue around the edges, and then this whole section kind of in the middle, you're going to make sure it's really well covered with glue, because you're going to be cutting out something out of this soon. So that whole section there, you really want to cover it. Make sure it's well covered. I'm just going to let that dry, and then we'll cut out in a minute, but let's just let that dry for a second. Next you want to take your 6x4 piece, and you want to stick on the front of it your 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 pattern paper piece. And again with this one, you also want to be making sure that the middle of it is really well glued, because again you're going to be cutting out an aperture from this piece of card, and so you don't want any flappy edges. So just really make sure that this centre section is really well done. That's better. There we go, that's that one. Right. Now you want to put that to one side to dry, and you want to take your 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square and stamp a greeting. If you are using tape, you don't have to let things dry, then that's fine, but because I'm having to let things dry, that's why I'm having to do things in the order I'm doing them. Now whenever I stamp, I always use a cork board. Just find my sentiment I want to put inside. Got it out beforehand, but I didn't. So obviously this is a thank you card, and so I'm going to use the Dovecraft thank you so much stamp from Dovecraft. I've already said it's Dovecraft, haven't I? Repeating myself. And we're going to use black ink so. You need to make sure that your sentiment is nice and central. Central on your square. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, just because it is very, very black. I like how black it is. Do you know what I mean? Some inks you can get and they're a bit grey, but I really like this ink because it really is nice and black. Right, so you want to go halfway, let's get nice and square. Halfway, halfway, right in the centre. There we go. Give it a good push down. There we go. Now the reason why I use a cork board is it gives you just enough give to press down and get a good stamped image. If you use a flat surface and there is a tiny little bump in your flat surface, i.e. it's not that flat, you will end up with a not very well stamped image. So even with this cork board I have to be a bit careful. If I've got little nicks out of it, I have to be a bit careful. But it just gives you enough give to allow you to do that. Right, let's just clear this away. I always put my stamps back in the packets after I've finished them, and I know where they are then. Can't do mess. Right, next you need your die cutting machine. And what you want to do is you want to take, let me move this out of the way for a second, I'll bring it back in a minute. You want to take your panel, that is this centre panel, this is the one with the bits, the score lines either side, and you want to take you want to measure halfway long. So this is 9 by, no it's not, it's, what is it, it's yeah, this is 9 by 4, thought it was. 9 by 4 inches, so obviously halfway is 4.5. So at the top measure 4.5, and at the bottom measure 4.5. And then you want to take your 3-inch square die, and it needs to go on so that it's diagonal at an angle, not straight, and your little pencil mark lines up with the corner and lines up with the corner. Okay, and then take your washi tape, or whatever tape you're using. You do need to tape it down. If you try and freestyle it, it's just not going to work. It's going to move when you try and get it in your die cutting machine. Just stick it down, and then get your die cutting machine. And just run it through. Very carefully peel your washi tape back. I've had, depending on the washi tape you've got, episodes where you end up with washi tape peeling off your backing paper a little bit, so you really have to be very careful when you peel it off. See, it feels like it's stuck on really well, so I'm just peeling it kind of back on itself, carefully and slowly. There we go. Off any stickiness that's left. Right, so now you should end up with two pieces, because the reason why you're using a 3-inch square is it, can you see it's not quite, when it's on its side it means it's coming out of the edges, so you will definitely end up with two pieces. You don't want to end up with a square aperture cut on your card. You want to end up with a piece of square and two banner shapes basically. So that's that. So you can put that to one side for now. Next we take this one, which is the centre piece that goes down the middle. So this piece is going to go there. So we want to cut a circle out of the middle. So lay your circle on. Get it more or less central, left and right, and central top and bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4 sunglasses. 1, 2, 3, 4 sunglasses. I want it slightly higher because I always think it's better to have a bigger gap at the bottom than it is at the top. And again, use your tape. I'm going to use the tape I just used because it'll be a bit less sticky now. And you want to cut the aperture out. There we go. So you should be left with a panel that has a nice circle cut out of it. Again, don't be tempted to rush this bit. The amount of times I've thought the washi tape's fine, then I've gone to peel it off and taken part of the card with me, which at this stage is a bit of a nightmare. There we go. So there's your circle. So there's your aperture. Right, what you want to do now on the back of here, on the top and the bottom, you want to use red tape. Do not use normal double-sided tape. You need to use red tape. The reason why you need to use red tape is because it's very strong and it's very sticky, and you need this to be properly stuck down because it's going to have pressure making it want to lift off. So you really do need it to be red tape. So you stick that along the top. Make sure you press down so it's properly stuck. And then you want the other one. The other side. There we go. Now what you want to do to start with is you're going to just stick the top. Do not stick the bottom, only the top. It's very important that you only stick the top. Very important. when I do my little craft classes, I always say to people, public service announcement, do not stick it down. There's the amount of people who don't listen and then end up in troubles later on. And this needs to be nice and central. So I reckon about there. You can measure it if you want. Actually, a bit further over maybe, tiny bit. No. No. About there, I reckon. Nice and central, nice and straight, and stick it down. Okay, so now you've got a little flappy bit. Now you need to take your, actually you know what I would do next is take your greeting and stick that down underneath, making sure that that is nice and central. Now I'm going to stick this down with, glue, so I've got a bit of wiggle time. If I do it with tape and I don't get it in the right place, I could be in trouble. Right, I think that is central. Stick that down. Right, so now what you want to do is take your two pieces that you've cut the square out of the middle. You want to fold and burnish these bits here and make sure they are really nice and sharp, like that. And you want to fold them inwards. Same with this one. Like that. Now these are going to, you can either do them like that, or you can cross them, which is what I did, and make it a bit more like an aperture. So that's how I'm going to do mine. So what you want to do is put them, this is the, actually before you start lining things up, you just need to stick some red tape on these sections here. And again, you do need red tape and not normal tape. Now, because of the width of the tape that I'm using, I'm going to need to use two rows of it, but obviously if you can find, you've got red tape that fits, is the right width, that's better. You just want to make sure that that's really well stuck. There's one. Right, so there's your tape on. So now what you want to do is let's put them in, I'd put them underneath the flap if I were you, and then get them so they interfold however it is you want them to interlap. Now this is the main bit. The main bit now is to try and get that sentiment nice and central. So, you make sure that it's quite good on this sentiment because I've got those two little lines, and that, I know that's the centre, where those little leafy things are, that's like the centre, so I want to line that up with this bit here. You also want to make sure that your tabs, for want of a better word, your tabs are like this. So your card's flat, it's not folded under, the tabs are showing with the glue, and you want to make sure that the edge of your tab, your card, is lined up with that fold. Now when you're happy where that is, which I am with that one, I'm happy that that's in the right place because that is measured up with that little line. You can take your tape off, your backing off, the red liner, and then bring this side over and stick it down. Now, when you open it, can you see it? It's now going to work the mechanism. Okay? Now you need to do the same with this one. I'm going to bring it in so that this is in line. Then I'm going to check, and I'm going to have a quick peek underneath just to make sure it lines up with the one on the other side. And that does line up, so I'm happy with that. Just move it back so it's in line with that. So when I put that down, that is literally right up against that crease line. So I'm happy with that. So we're going to take, I apologise if you can see my head, we're going to take the red liner backing off this red tape. As you can see, the red tape isn't actually red underneath. People do ask me this question. And then you bring your side in and give it a good stick down. So now you've got the shutter mechanism. Right, so now all you're going to do next is take the tape backing off this side of the bottom of your panel. Which is a bit tricky because you don't want to bend your card too much. There we go. And then stick that down like that. So there's your shutter mechanism. I really love it. I really love the way that works, and it's not that difficult, really. I mean, it looks like it is, but it's really not that bad. So that's that. Now then, I'm going to put my little top on the front, and again, I think. I'll work out what to do because I can't write. Work I'm right. No, I should just stick it on the front, I think. Anyway, I'll just stick it on the front. So you just need to work out, obviously, put it halfway and then just stick it on the one side. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just make a note that it's from there to there. Flip it over and then just make a little pencil mark. I know roughly, so it's this side I'm going to stick. Now for this you can use normal double-sided tape, or you can put it on pads, and I think I'm going to put it on pads actually. Just need to put it on some foam pads. It will stand out a bit better like that. There we go. There we go, and there you have your little thank you card. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you'll have a go. It's not as complicated as you think it is, because I really did think, oh my goodness, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to make that. And as I say, we're having one failed attempt as well. Go and have a look over on my blog, which is www.iced-images.blogspot.co.uk. I think that's right. I shall put the link in my description below. But yeah, have a look on that. Comment, let me know what you think. Hope you like it. Hope you'll have a go.